Bellas. This is all about Bella life, the Bella Army. I'm sure we'll see some John and Brian going on here. This is big time. I was talking with Mona this morning. She's freaking out about Total Bellas debuting Wednesday, October. You know, I'll start with this. It's got to be an honor for you guys. Not everybody gets a spin-off, and what that means is that they saw the Bellas in Total Divas. They were like, you know what? This is big enough that we can take this and make it its own property. That's a big-time deal right there.
Yeah, I mean,
really is.
yeah, big time. And it's such an honor. Bree and I are just beyond grateful, and we're excited to show the world more into our life, and not only that, but a more intimate look into our relationships. Me with John, Bree with Brian, and you get to see more of the Bella fam. And what's cool is the cameras just happen to be rolling when a lot of us were going through a lot of stuff in our lives. Me with my neck, Brian with retiring, Bree with retiring as well, and wanting to become a mom, and then John rehabbing his shoulder. My mom getting married for the third time to our former boss.
John Lawrence.
Johnny Ace.
People power.
That's
Hello.
our stepdad. That's crazy.
That's wild.
It is wild.
But too, like Doug said, now your name is on the show title.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
like, you know, there's been some spin-offs that have been successful. There's been some spin-offs that, you know, crash and burn. But what's the pressure of having your actual name in the title of the show?
Oh my gosh, there's so much pressure. It's crazy. But, you know, I really have to say, I think John Cena and Daniel Bryan add so much to the show because everyone saw them on Total Divas occasionally here and there. But I think people wanted to really hear from them more, and that's what you get in Total Bellas. You get to see, you know, perspective from Brian. He's getting in the interview chair. He's telling you his point of view, which you don't get in Total Divas, and I think people really wanted that.
Yeah.
And Nicole and I, for some reason, because our vocabulary is very small and how we fight with each other, it's very entertaining to people.
This is like a marriage for 32 years. So.
And a rocky one.
Oh, is it Rocky, Bree?
It feels it.
Whatever.
I mean, obviously you guys have your ups and downs, but the success is obvious for what you guys have done with WWE and now in all the different endeavors, magazine covers. I mean, even in quasi-retirement for Bree, there's still so much going on. You know, we'll get into your company, of course, as we go along here. But 3 months, I mean, I saw the trailer, of course. So 3 months in the Cena-Nikki household. I mean, I got to ask you, John's got a lot of rules.
A lot.
And I don't know if you saw this, Dave, but there's some mandates from Big John right off the top. You got to have coffee in the morning together. You got to have a formal dinner once a week. The best was a nightly soiree by the fireplace. I mean, you guys you live a humble life, you know. You're coming into this. What's going on with Brian and Bree when you walk into this situation?
We wanted to walk right out. You know, for us too, it was funny because the first night when John laid the rules, I actually was waiting for him to say just kidding, and it got very serious and almost awkward in the room, and I think you could see that in the previews, and I'm like thinking to myself, like, no way, like, we have to make our beds in the morning before we have our coffee.
Oh, that's so difficult.
It is, you know? Like, I
Oh,
had to
is
roll
it?
out of bed, and it was no shoes in the house, which, okay, I get, but sometimes, like, you go out real quick and come back in. There's just, like, a whole...
So you want to put germs all over our floors?
Anyways,
Wow,
for
jeez.
Brian and I, we
Getting
just...
tension in here.
Right? We just have no rules at our house, so it was weird to walk in and live, you know,
But
someone
this is
else's
the thing,
rules.
what I was trying to tell Bree is, you know when you have family come and stay with you for a bit, and then it's like towards the end you're like, oh my gosh, everything they're doing is annoying me.
Oh, yeah.
So why not put these rules out in the beginning so that when I walk by their rooms and I see like the beds all messy, I don't have to let it build up of how much I want them out of my house.
So then you become annoying right off the bat.
Really?
This is like a rocky marriage here.
Listen,
Oh.
I kind of hear where Nikki's coming from, though, because I had a similar experience. My mom needed a little help. She was in the house with my wife and my son, and I tell you, it was just so many things were driving me crazy. If I would have laid out, you know, the Doug decree right at the top, maybe things would have been a little bit better off.
I agree, because those are the things that would bother us. So why not fix it in the beginning so it's never an issue, and then it doesn't cause such crazy tension that we want to really just like go at each
Yes,
other's
but as a
throats.
guest, it put a lot of pressure on us, and I think we were already going through enough pressure. I mean, as you will see in the series, you know, a lot happened in such a short amount of time. Like, Brian had no idea. You know, he thought he was going to go back into that ring, and unfortunately, he had to walk away from it. And so the pressure of that and him trying to put a smile on his face, but he couldn't. He just couldn't, and you slowly see him just, you know, kind of fall off. And then the pressure of, oh, well, shoot, I need to make my bed really quick. Oh, wait, I have to meet everyone for the fire pit and this. And then I'm like on the road 5 days a week because I'm, you know, I had 2 to 3 months left at WWE. So there was that pressure. And then my husband. And then I'm like, you know, stressing out about no shoes. So
Yeah, I mean, they act like we made them wake up early in the morning, feed the animals, pick crops out of the field. Like, poor
I would've
you
rather
had to
have done
sit by a
that.
campfire and you had to have a formal dinner with a private chef and sip on Opus One. I'm feeling so bad for you, Brie.
Family time is important. Would you say, though,
Exactly.
for the first time that your lives are kind of going in different directions?
Yes.
It's so funny
It's
because
crazy.
we've been tag partners the last decade. I mean,
And identical twin sisters
Yeah,
for the past
for-
32 years.
but we always, you know, get along. We have fun together. I mean, we fight a lot, but to live under one roof, I actually didn't think it would be as bad as it was. And I'm like, well, we can't ever live together again because we are so different.
So different.
Wow.
Which is crazy. It's weird. Like, you grow up as kids and you live under one roof, under the same rules, and everything's okay.
It's
and
like
then
we
you
can
grow up.
meet at a happy hour spot and have a blast, but it's weird because living together and it, like, I always thought, like, we enjoy the same stuff, so it's cool. We like to go shopping together and we
Oh,
like to
well,
do
I don't
this.
shop like you.
You like to watch me shop and whatever. We have fun. and
you.
so, but it was weird. There were so many nights I would lay in bed with John and I was like, we are so different. Like, I didn't even realize this. It's like she wants to always go garden and do this stuff and I want to go do that stuff. And then they think how I live is like bad and I think how they live is
Okay, we don't
annoying.
think it's bad.
Brian and I actually got into our first like real massive fight. And it was weird because I never thought that you really fight like that with your brother-in-law. And I know I've always heard about it with other families, but I was like, oh, that won't ever happen to me. And I mean, we got into it bad.
Wow.
Like, he cussed at me and Brian does not cuss. But I like literally hit the button so bad. And it was in front of my whole family. And I didn't think we were going to be able to bounce back, which it was very awkward and weird for an extremely long time. And then it made our relationship really tough. But I think it was just the pressure of being under one roof for a while and how I live and how Brian lives. And everyone, she was on the road coming in and out, going to live events and TV. John was always at rehab. My mom and my brother were working hard on their business. So Brian and I had a lot of time together, and it was just like, ew, if we were the last people on earth, we could not be married. Like, we would both just be alone.
The
We've
world
like,
would be screwed.
yeah, there'd be no reproduction.
The end of the world.
Yeah, it would be the end because there'd be no way.
It's incredible the differences
Yeah.
between identical twins. It's amazing. And the differences between the significant others as well. And
Yeah.
you know, we could talk about on the wrestling side or our interpretation on the personality side. But when you look at Brian and John, and we're really excited to see because you know we certainly have seen you and Brian, and haven't seen a lot of. I'd like to see more of Brie and John and their dynamic, but John and Brian together. What is the rapport? I mean, obviously they share one huge common bond, which is their wrestling lifers. You know, talk about them together.
They're interesting. I kind of feel like they're almost like a business relationship how they talk because one, they could talk wrestling all day long, and that's what they mainly talk about. But they both like to talk about like what's going on in the world, politics, news, whatever it is. But beyond that, it's like sometimes awkward. Like you'll even see it on Total Bellas. Like we're just hanging in our kitchen, and Brian's just staring at our fish tank, and he's like. Wait, you guys have fish?
With
in a fish
sadness.
tank."
He's
With,
staring at it with
I mean,
sadness.
and John's looking at him like he doesn't understand. So they have these conversations, and I'm just watching it like, what? What are they even talking about? And like to even see them it's just weird how their interaction's kind of awkward. Wouldn't you say?
Well, I don't think it's awkward. I think, you know, I think guys always want to, like, women, we will sit and we can bicker and this and that. Guys always want to find the positive and, like blend. They want to be able
But
to
they don't
sit
have
down.
like a bromance.
Not at all.
Like my brother JJ and John, I think, have
Have a
more of a bromance.
For
Oh,
sure.
really?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
like they hit it off, but also JJ and John can sit and watch a football game and drink beers. Brian doesn't want to sit and do that. Like he wants to go stretch or permaculture, and like John doesn't want to go do permaculture. Like they're very different.
Right.
But when it comes to wrestling though, those two can talk. I was with them the other night when we were on our way to New York. And I kept trying to get in the conversation, and they would just look at me like, so, anyways, blah, 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 blah. Cruiserweights, this. And I'm like, trying to put in my opinion, and they didn't even want to hear it.
But that's great, though.
Yeah. So, and that's what's cute, is wrestling is what brings them together, which
Exactly.
is amazing.
And it's so funny because us as wrestling fans, we look at, Bryan Danielson and John Cena as two completely different type of
Absolutely.
wrestlers. And I think the fans do too, because, Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan will always be the darling when it comes to the wrestling fan. John Cena, it's a little bit different. There is that dynamic, ones that love and ones that hate.
Totally. Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, and it is interesting when you hear them talk about wrestling because they agree on a lot, but then they have different point of views, and they both respect their different point of views. But it is cool because in the series you'll see John teaches me how to drive stick, which actually I got Brian a little jealous because I guess he
Well,
wanted
there's
to teach
this
me.
joke in our family. John always makes time to see my family, and he's just such an overachiever. And Brian, he's if he gets a free chance to himself, he's I'm just gonna take a nap, and Bree, I'm just gonna stay in Phoenix. And so we have this
He
joke.
makes
What
time
does
for the
Brian
family,
though
too.
always say?
SOB about
Yeah.
John. John will do
SOB.
something and he's like, but he doesn't say SOB. He
Yeah.
says,
But it's funny. It's this joke. So Bree learning stick from John, and Bree was just kind of well, he just seems smarter. And Brian was like, excuse me? But it is funny because people always go to lean on John, and Brian's always like, what about me? Why don't people come to me about things?
It is true. It's funny because John is very intimidating, and there's a part where Brian and I want to tell him we don't like the rules and we want to kind of go because it's not fun. And we're both literally, I'm like, you tell him, Brian. And he's like, no, you. And you could see Brian and I, it's just, you go talk to John, and I know he's going to make me feel very small in the conversation. And it's not because he wants to do that, because he's so educated in how he talks. And I'm
So
always
articulate.
yeah, very articulate. And
He
the words are
does
so
come off-
big. And
he
I'm
comes off, and this is for me simply watching Total Divas in the past, right?
Yeah.
He comes off a little pompous. I mean, and I don't know if that's the popular opinion, and I know also from the wrestling fan standpoint, the most polarizing guy maybe in the history of pro wrestling, like Dave was saying, love-hate. But he comes off like the alpha dog. This
Yeah.
is my yard, fellas.
Yeah, that's how I like him. He's a man. Oh,
So,
man.
But I
he
mean,
is an alpha dog. That is
he is an alpha dog.
and maybe the blowback from Brian because of it, he's just a cool guy. I mean, if I was to choose one guy to hang out with, it
Yeah.
would be Brian because I think I'd feel more comfortable.
Not now. Now I'm hearing about football and beer. I think I want to hang out with John.
Well, John is the type, when he's comfortable around you, he's so just hilarious
He
and
is.
fun, and how I see him with his guys. But it's until he's comfortable with you. That's what I like all the movies that John's come out in, because they're oh my gosh, this guy's hilarious. But that's the John I see all the
And he
time.
has a very generous heart. I've
Yeah.
never met
Wow.
anyone with a bigger heart than John.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Every time we go do something, or even when someone in the family, whether it's our family or his family, he drops everything and he's there. And it literally blows my mind. And that's why my husband started the joke about him, because he's he's Superman. He's yeah, when anyone needs something or
What
help,
is he
he's
saying
there.
that John's what's Brian's joke? About how he was born different?
Oh, how he's a genetic freak?
Yeah.
Oh, he is a
like
genetic
just,
He is.
Yeah.
It comes back. I mean, we're going to
He's a
get into
cyborg.
injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's a guy who comes back so quick
Right.
from injury.
Yeah. And being his significant other, I assume that I can do the same. And
Yeah,
not
Brian
so
thinks
much.
women should only mate with John in the world, and he thinks the world will be a better place.
Yeah, that's what he says.
Probably make a
and I'm
good
like,
argument
whoa,
on that.
Brian, settle down.
And everybody, all four of you have dealt with major adversity. Bree, it's an interesting situation because now you're the only one who's not back at it's
I
the
know.
SmackDown family right
Yeah.
now. Brian
Yeah,
being Brian being the GM, you coming back to the brand. Obviously, John, we know what he's doing with SmackDown, but the adversity. your neck.
And Johnny's there too.
Yes.
Johnny's,
It's a big
Johnny's
family.
there, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's no chance you weren't going to SmackDown.
You had to go to
I mean,
SmackDown.
you had to go
Right.
to SmackDown.
We'll be back on
It was
SmackDown
like-
soon too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
hope so. You got to tell us. I mean, how hard it was for you, Nikki, with the neck injury. Everybody. At least the speculation was career threatening. I think we're going to see a lot of what you went through. We were following you on all your social media accounts, which obviously are through the roof.
Yep.
But,
Thank you.
and the difficulty, the struggle that you had to go through to get back. At the same time, Brian's retiring. At the same time, John's missing WrestleMania. I mean, a lot of injury concern with this family.
I know it's crazy. It was really a tough road, and it's tough because you want to be there for the ones you love and stay strong. But when you're not strong yourself, it was really tough. And when John went into surgery on his shoulder, I was not expecting to have neck surgery a few weeks later. So here I'm taking care of John because he could barely. I mean, how his injury was, it was very hard for him to move around. He couldn't drive. Here I got a puppy, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks later they're like, you need surgery now. And that's what gave me the idea of like, Brie, I really need your help. And then when she planned on coming, all of a sudden Brian had to retire, and they had to come that week, and we were all like, oh my goodness, how's this gonna work? We're gonna make it work. And that was, my mom was a huge help. And there's even stuff that you don't even get to see on the show of how much my mom helped John and I. She was there before anyone got there. She was driving us around. She was helping me take care of Winston, our puppy. But it was tough. And I definitely had to work on staying strong mentally. Having now, the spin-off, all these cameras, people in my home. It's not like, oh, I'm just wearing a neck brace because it's fun. I was in a lot of pain. And so I'm trying to
fusion
recover.
surgery, correct?
Yes, correct.
That's a big deal, right?
Yeah. And it was my C6, C7, which makes it,
My
oh yeah.
God.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah, which, makes it even more serious. But I knew at the end of the day, like, whether people were in my home, taking care of everyone else, I still had in my head, my goal was to get back in that ring and do what I love. And I was going to do anything I could to be there. And so to see how John was rehabbing, I mean, I was using a bone stimulator every day and using it up to its max hours. I was doing everything the doctor said. I was taking 16 vitamins a day, anything to just help that bone be strong and make my neck stronger. And so it was so emotional for me, not only at SummerSlam, but when I got to start training at NXT. And like, I remember getting in the ring and I like told the coach, can I just have a moment real quick?
Wow.
And it was amazing. It was just the smell that I can just remember everything. And so when I got the call for SummerSlam, it was literally 3 days before. And they're like, hey, can you sit down? And I was on the phone and I'm like, am I getting fired? Like, and I was by myself and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I'm getting fired. So I was like, I'm sitting down. And they're like, okay, well, you're going to be competing in SummerSlam. And I was like, wait, what? Like, am I prepared? And so it was just an incredible, incredible journey.
And you talk about that journey. The women's division has completely changed in a
Yes.
time. I mean, you're on the show Total Divas, and there's that Divas,
Yeah.
and now you're going into women's wrestling again. I
Right.
mean, how did that feel for you to be at SummerSlam and also to get that crowd reaction
Oh,
like you
yeah.
did in
Oh
Brooklyn?
my gosh, it gives me chills thinking about it.
Me too.
I think that's what made me more nervous than ever was I didn't want, when I did make my comeback and was able to get in the ring, I didn't want it to be like, oh, she's back. I wanted to be impressive. I wanted to be at the same level as all those girls. And so only being able to get in the ring for 2 weeks before that, because I wasn't planning on coming back till October. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have all this time to really train hard, be at the level where these girls are at. But I knew that I had to change my style as well. So I wanted to be able to stay on the same level as all the girls in the new era, but knowing that I had to protect myself as well. And so it put on a lot of pressure. But I have to say that, and even on Sunday, the SummerSlam, I was hidden all day. No one could see me. I literally didn't come off the bus till the middle of Dolph and Dean's match, which was
Wow.
right before us.
Wow.
I was on the bus
And-
with her all day.
Yeah.
That must have been
And-
fun for you.
But at least we had a
I
feed
thought I
for
was gonna be able to go
SummerSlam.
drink up in the suites.
Yeah. But
Like, I'm on the bus with her. I'm like, jeez.
But so I was nervous, but when I came it was weird. It was like, I'm home. And it it gave me this feeling and it was good. And even though I didn't do much because they were like, okay, we don't know what you can do, because that was my first match back. Like, I had trained, but so that's why I did very little.
Wow.
Just, I didn't want to come back and then, oh, I'm injured again.
Yeah, absolutely. And for you, Bree, I mean, regardless of the back and forth and the bickering and stuff, obviously, your love for your twin, you know, is you can't measure that. Was there ever the conversation with Nikki? Don't go back. Just what are you doing? You know, you have you've achieved everything you want in your career. There's so much more to come. What are you wrestling for? You don't need to do this.
Right. There definitely was, because I was there for so much of a rehab and seeing her in pain, and I was also there before it all went down. I'll never forget, in Australia, we were wrestling Natalia and Emma, and she had to stay with me in my room every night because she kept getting all these like bumps on her back, and she was in so much pain she couldn't sleep. So she would just cry all night, and I was like, what do I do? And so, you know, we definitely in our match would try to protect her, and we were heels, we're bad guys, and so, you know, I was like, let me just take all the bumps, let's protect your neck. But seeing all of that happen, and then she had to get the surgery, and then I started seeing the rehab, and I was at all these doctor's appointments where Dr. Uribe was like, you're not going to be able to get back in that ring. And then finally, when they did clear her, and they're like, you can, I was like thinking to myself, like, do you really want to get back in all that pain I saw you in the last year? And I started freaking out. But then, you know, at the end of the day, I understand the passion and the love for wrestling, and I have the same exact passion and love she does, and I'd never want to hold her back. I never wanted to hold Brian back, and so for me, I was like, go get him. I mean, I watch now, and I'm like, I get nervous,
When you see
but
that,
I'm so proud.
Yeah, in Total Bellas, this season, you actually see a lot of those conversations of how my mom feels, my brother, John, Brian, and then I even have friends come in town, and when they hear that I'm going back, they're like, wait, what? Like, you did everything you could, and I think that's what everyone thought was, what more do you want? You're the longest reigning Divas champion. You were #1 on PWI. Like, you've done all these amazing goals. You were Diva of the Year. What do you want to go back?
Divas champion?
Yeah, like, I did so many historic moments up till then. So I think for people, they're like, you did everything you could. Like, why do you want to go back? And I was like, I don't even care if I go back as a jobber. Like, I love wrestling and I miss it. And that's what I want to do. And coming back, that's what I told him. I was like, use me to make the women's division stronger. Let me help them take it to the next level, and that's been the goal.
And now you're on SmackDown, which has a lot of buzz to it. You're with Naomi going up against Natalia and Carmella, who cheats. But Doug, as I always say, women from Staten Island, that's what they do. They cheat.
Right?
And no, there's a lot of buzz around SmackDown. That's the hottest show right now.
It
I
is.
agree, and I am so proud of the women's division on SmackDown. I think every woman right now on there is so talented, and I think we proved that at the pay-per-view, and we continue to prove that every week. But it's like, I'm just so excited to see what Becky Lynch is going to do with the championship. What's Alexa Bliss going to do? What Carmella's going to do? Naomi, Natalia. It's like there's a lot of great competitive women, and what I love about it is every week they want to be better and better, and there's so much passion in our locker room right now. I've never seen it like this in the past 10 years that I've worked here, and it makes being at work so much fun. We challenge each other every week, and I'm just really excited to see where our division goes in the next year.
I retired at the wrong time.
Yeah, you did.
Seriously.
I
Goodness,
retired on the
Bree.
greatest night in like women's history at WWE.
But you had that
So-
great moment.
You
though.
did.
I
It
mean,
was
you had
an
an
incredible
amazing
moment.
moment.
I definitely did. And, you know, timing is everything. And, you know, for Brian and I, it's just we're ready to be parents. And especially everything he was going through, it couldn't have been more perfect. But I remember that night, I'm like, jeez. I'm like, we are now called superstars. We're no longer divas. We've all been waiting for this moment. We put our blood, sweat, and tears into it. And I'm like, adios. I'm like, what?
No, but it was great.
But it was great. And it's so much fun to watch my family all back on TV. And let me tell you, when I have my first kid, I'm going to make a comeback back.
So I'm guessing on Total Bellas, premiering Wednesday, October the 5th on 8 p.m. Eastern.